Hello, everyone, and welcome to Snap Take. This is Glazer of Snap Judgments, the official podcast of Marvel Snap Zone. And Second Dinner yesterday announced series drops, and they are an utter freaking disaster. This is one of the biggest mistakes I think Second Dinner has ever made in the history of the game. I would assume there's a reason, but we just straight up do not know what that reason is. And as of right now, this is one of the worst days in the history of Marvel Snap. We're going to go over all the series drops, all the cards that didn't series drop, and then go through each card one at a time to analyze what it tells us that they're dropping these cards and examine whether these are good or bad drops and changes. The first, let's just take a quick look at an overview of what the cards are that are dropping. We've got three freaking cards dropping from 4 to 3. That's right, three cards. Snowguard, Kitty Pryde, Jean Grey. I'm going to go into these in a lot more detail later, but two of these three are completely freaking unplayable cards. Jean is unplayable, Snowguard is unplayable. They're just putting more crap into the extremely overbloated Series 3. Um, Series 3 is humongous. It takes forever to get through, making it really hard to get into the game. Adding three cards, I understand why they don't want to add a ton more, right? But the ones they chose to add are absolutely like junk cards. Kitty's a different case, but they gave us Kitty for free a million years ago. And they've like given her to us in bundles and so on and so forth. And I just don't understand what the hell they're thinking at this point. Then we have five cards going from Series 5 to Series 4, which, sorry, excuse me, nine cards going from Series 5 to Series 4, which seems like a good number. And some of these are even decent cards, but they made some very strange choices. And, well, we're going to look at the freaking size of Series 5. Still, this is an unacceptably small number, especially because Spotlight caches weight Series 4 more heavily than Series 5. So having so many fewer Series 4 than Series 5 means that you're just going to be drawing dupes left and right. It's absolutely absurd how terrible a decision this is. Again, some of these cards are decent, but almost all of them have some major caveat. They didn't put down a single meta thing. This is just absolute shit. I wish that I had a better way to say it. I wish that this wasn't what they were doing. I wish there was a better decision here. All right, the things we've been told. First, they're still working on card acquisition. They're going to do something that's not spotlight caches. We've got data mine stuff that suggests they're doing things. We know that they're giving us one free card at least every couple months, whether it be King Eitri, Agony, Cassandra Nova, but they're still working on something. It's been like a year since they've been working on something. Having absolutely nothing come out of this, and then series drops being the only thing that we have right now to improve acquisition being nothing is unacceptable. This has been just straight up too long. It is time to announce something. It's time to actually put the rubber to the road and tell us what your plans are. Let us know that we can support this game, that we can give you money in good faith. I'm a big spender on this game. I'm a whale as a content creator, and I don't feel comfortable spending money on a game like when I don't know where we're going, and the lack of information about that is absolutely killer. We know that they're doing another big series drop quarter 1 next year, and that means a 3 month wait at most instead of a 4 to 6 month wait. And they say that one's going to be significantly bigger, and that could be really big and impactful. But that's like a feels like it's a response to the backlash to this, but B, even more than that, who knows when that's going to be? Can they find enough pad cards for that? That means that we're more than 3 months out from the rework of card acquisition that's over a year. I got nothing. This is absolutely terrible. I don't understand. I'm going to go forward. We're going to keep going with this. Before we go forward, I'm going to ask you to hit that sub button, like, and comment. This is not a giveaway video, but any comments about what you think about the series drops would be more than welcomed. I'm very, very curious. I'd love to show Second Dinner the comments to this video about what people think. On my content, because like this content is usually so positive. If you're willing to leave that comment, it would mean a lot to me. There will be a second regular video later today where I've got, again, like 4 or 5 brand new decks for you, including a Gore deck that I think is going to be the beast of the meta on day one from Ika. We've got a new #1 deck. We've got all that stuff coming later today. So don't miss out. That one will have a giveaway for the new card. I'm still going to do the giveaways. I'm just going to try not to spend outside of the season pass elsewhere. So if you're interested in that, please make sure you check back later today for that video. But we're going to go forward. And I'm sorry that this is how we have to start our day because this is an unacceptable change. All right, we have 3 freaking cards going to Series 3. Snowguard, Kitty Pryde, Jean Grey. Cool. We're going to go through these one by one. Snowguard and Jean Grey are terrible. Jean has been meta once, 1.5 times. Kitty is incredible, but often in and out of the meta, and often really works with other high series stuff like Thena. Dropping to Series 4, Phastos, damn near unplayable until recently. Grandmaster, pretty good card finally. Pixie, pretty good card. Iron Lad, card over a year old. Anyone who wants Iron Lad has been playing, has Iron Lad. Does make it easier for newer players to get, but Jesus. Sasquatch, card that's not around. Valentina, a card that's in a bunch of decks right now, but is probably going away. We'll talk about why when we get there. Beta Ray Bill, decent little card, I guess. X23, super old card. Better for newer players, but kind of everyone who's been around for a while who wants it has it. It's been in spotlights like 5 times. And Supergiant, another card that never found a home. There's nothing here that's meta. There's nothing here at maybe Pixie that gives you a meta thing to do that says this game is cheaper if you want to compete, if you want to play good decks. That's absurd. They couldn't pick one meta card, one thena, one I don't even know, one meta card to drop that you can say, look, this meta deck is going to be cheaper. You can now get into this deck cheaper. I guess that's Destroy, but like, is Destroy a meta deck? No, right? It's just a baseline deck. Horribly disappointing. All right, so Series 4, the cards that are not dropping, there's still 24 cards. Series 4 will be 24 cards plus the new 9, so it'll be 33 cards. That's still like a ton of Series 3 cards. Darkhawk and Null have been in Series 4 since well, Darkhawk in particular, since they invented Series 4 and 5, has been sitting there. Null was supposed to drop the second they stopped their scheduled series drops. Like Man Thing, Ravona, Zabu was the season pass card when they stopped dropping cards. Hitmonkey's a meta card. Phoenix Force opens up a deck. They just gave it up. Living Tribunal could open up a new deck that's cheap for players. They did none of that. They could have given us MODOK and as a way to say, hey, now you've got discard, like the big discard enabler Series 3. None of it. Not a single one of those. Just 3 cards dropped to Series 3. And then it's not 56, it's 64. There's 64 cards not dropping to Series 4, and then there's a new one every week. A new freaking card every week. They could have chosen like 10 different cards that would have given a meta deck, gotten a meta deck in the hands of more players. They could have done Hope Summers. They could have done Ajax. They could have done Gilgamesh, right? They could have made Zoo cheaper to play for people. They could have said Scream. Lots of people really like Scream. I know it's new, but like they could have said Scream. They could have said Scar with and like sold an extra few of the frickin' season pass. They chose Loki, who's hasn't been a meta card. They chose none of these. Jeff is still a Series 5 card. Uh, Absolutely absurd. There are 64 Series 5 cards. And then by the end of next month, it'll be like 69 and then it'll be 74 again by the end of January. And then if they do a series drop and it's big, then odds are we probably just go back down to this utterly absurd number. And remember, you are less likely 1/3 to get this from your random spotlight chance. So the odds of getting these cards are like next to nothing. This is a problem. This is terrible. Why would they do this? There must be something they're doing. Like it could just be greed, right? But they're driving players out of their game. So I have to think they're actually searching for a solution. They don't want Marvel Snap to die. I promise. We know them well enough. They don't want Marvel Snap to die. But what are they doing driving people out in this way? So let's say a new card, a Series 5 card, 6,000 tokens in. 6,000 times 64 is 384,000 tokens. All right, 6,000 tokens is $100, right? Well, that means we're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on this game. But hey, the best for you deals have $50 for 6,000 tokens. So if you're lucky and patient and get there, you can get it for like what ends up being like over $100,000. That's absurd. And you don't want every card, you just want half. And you're still just spending so much money to get these. But like at least there's credits and spotlights. Well, this is 309,000 credits worth of spotlight keys without dupes. So like not protecting for like that dupe spot that's going to ruin everything and not saying that you're ever going to repeat cards. Plus new cards are coming, making it more. 10,000 credits is around $50, right? So again, like we have a huge financial burden here, like an absolutely absurd financial burden being hoisted on players. Plus, it takes an average of 2.5 keys for a card, which means that this is going to end up being even more. This is absolute shit. This is not an acceptable or sustainable model for this game. If you played long enough, if you collected long enough, you could compete without that, but there's no way to start new and get into a real collection without just wailing out, and that's completely unacceptable. Like, yes, there should be a buy-in for this game, but the buy-in being this much is insane. This needs to be fixed as soon as possible. I want to hear from Second Dinner. I want to hear why this lack of transparency about this issue is not acceptable. All right, we're going to do analysis for each dropping card and a deck. We're going to start with the new Series 3 stuff next month, whatever. Then we'll do the new Series 4 stuff, excuse me. Deck for each, as always, because I don't want to leave you without decks. If you want them, they'll be in the description of the video. So Kitty is going to Series 3. Kitty was released on 3/7/23. She was bugged all to hell when she was released. She's been nerfed and reworked like 5 or 6 times. She was also eventually she dropped from 5 to 4, and then she was given 2 when she was fixed to every active player for free. So yes, they dropped a card to Series 3, but they dropped a card that they gave a large portion of the community who's been playing for basically a year and a half or more, a card they already have. And a card that they sold us in a recent bundle. And this and that. So like, what are we doing here? Kitty Pryde is a potentially great card, but she's not in the meta right now, and when she is, she's in an occasional Wiccan deck, which means expensive stuff, or an occasional Thena deck, which means expensive stuff. This is the best card drop to Series 3 exponentially, and it's one of the worst choices they can make for a great card. Literally, like, make it Hitmonkey and everything changes. All of a sudden, everything feels so much better. Like, add 2 extra mediocre cards, right? And all of a sudden, everything feels better. This is Slayer Blade 3.0. Safety's been playing this and having a lot of success with it. Basically, your opponent's fairly likely to clog somewhere. If they do that, you Cannonball or Shang, and then you Vendor's Wolf and you win the game. Nothing super complicated here. Very strong deck that does need Kitty to work. This will be featured on the channel eventually. All right, next up we have Snowguard, who was released 4/7/23. She was the worst card in the game when she's released. When every other turn she would randomly be a bear or a hawk. She got buffed to the best card when she was the one that created 2/2s, and then she was tuned back down into a just Loki card. But since Loki was nerfed and Loki no longer affects your hand, she has been completely unplayed. She is at a 0.2% popularity. She is the least popular card on this list. That means every 1,000 games you're seeing her twice. This is a card that we don't need or care about. I don't understand what we're doing here. This is a deck that runs her. Is she good in this deck? She's basically here because she's the one that creates 3s, which gives you a little bit of extra Wiccan. The modern versions of this, note that this deck is from September 25th. The modern versions of this don't run the card. Nothing runs her. She's unplayable. But if you are going to run her, this is a place. All right, next up we have Jean. Jean was released 7/20/23. She was the first spotlight card, so many people got her. Many people have Kitty because they gave her to us. Many people have Snowguard because it was so important in Loki, which was a meta deck forever. They put to Series 3 cards that people freaking have. That's so shit. Jean has almost never been good. There was one quick moment where a bunch of people put her in an ongoing shell that was okay, and then that got chased right the fuck out of the meta. The last spotlight for this was 10/15, and it was sold in a bundle on 8/27. It's a 0.3% popularity. Again, if you wanted this card and have been playing long enough, you have it. It was in spotlights like literally about a month ago as of today, and month and a half ago as of today, and it was sold in a bundle, so you didn't even have to like spend spotlights. You could have just bought the damn card. Like, what the fuck? Like, if you want Jean Grey, you probably have Jean Grey, and you probably don't want Jean Grey. It's not good. 0.3% popularity. This is a bad card. If you decide to play Jean, I did not like this deck very much, but this is Dragono's No Blink Thena. It's a fine deck. I don't know. I kept losing because Jean is bad with it, but Dragono had some success. Again, September 30th, you'll note there are no modern decks with this freaking card. It does not exist. Next up, we have the cards going to Series 4. We're going to start with Phastos. Phastos is at least recent. You'll note that that's 23. This is 24, right? All 3 cards from going to Series 3 are over a year old by a healthy amount. This one is only 5 months old, so that's pretty cool. But this was bad. It never had a home. It is basically unplayable. It is sort of useful right now in Thanos and Thanos Arishem, so at least it's finally got like some use, I guess. Um, this card was so bad and so underplayed that it was literally never in a spotlight. This is one of the better drops they have though, because it's an underplayed card. So like maybe dropping it gets it in more people's hands, and then we can see if there's anything there. My guess is still no, and this is their way to not have to deal with him by buffing him or anything because they don't want a terrible card like him in Series 5. 2% popularity, 2 in every 100 games according to Unsnapped. Like, and that's as he's popular in Thanos decks. Come on. This is the deck that is in and out of the number one spot. We've got the current number one deck later today for you, but this is in and out of the number one spot. The Luke Skywalker Thanos Arishem list that does run Phastos because hey, making your whole deck cost one less or have +2 power is pretty good in Arishem. Next up, we have Grandmaster. Um, this may be the best card dropped right now. This was released 1/23/24, so it came out at the start of this year. It's almost it'll be like a month less than a year by the time it drops. The last spotlight was June, and the next one is January. So this will be in spotlights as a Series 4 card in early January. It has 6% popularity, which is a fair amount, and this is a good card and a good drop. I have no real complaints about Grandmaster being dropped at all, except that this is an enabler for other decks, not a real thing for decks. It's mostly good right now in discard. It's got an occasional other home, but it's mostly good in discard, like this list. This is what I think the best discard list is right now. You'll note that Grandmaster going to Series 4 does make it a little bit cheaper, right? It's now still got 2 other Series 5 cards and 1 other Series 4 card, so it's not a cheap deck, but it's not that expensive. So, like, hooray, we're getting better, I guess. I don't know. Next up, we have Pixie. Pixie is another one that could potentially open up some decks. Pixie and Mobius open up a lot of stuff. However, the stuff Pixie and Mobius open up tend to be a lot of expensive decks. So this gives you a way to get into expensive decks, but you still need all the other expensive cards for Pixie to work. Pixie was released on 3/5/24, which is going to make her about 8 months old. Her last spotlight was 8/13, and we don't know when she's coming back. She's 2% popularity. She's good, but not popular. Um, yeah, look, the 8/13 spotlight being like 3 months ago is a little closer than I would like, but it's not the absolute end of the world. Her week was also a really good spotlight week. I believe she was with Loki and Wiccan, so a lot of people ended up getting her at that point. But this is basically her main deck right now, and you'll note that half this deck, Nico, Hydra Bob, Mobius, Anti, Man-Thing, Deathstrike, Eliath, Frigga. That's all high series stuff. So this is a card that they're making cheaper, but by getting her, you're just sort of setting yourself up to need more expensive stuff, and that seems like it's probably less than ideal right now. Really good deck though. One Snap Judgments League Season 4. All right, next up we have Beta Ray Bill, released 1/30/24. Again, little less than a year. This was a week after one of those other cards that released in January. That also wasn't very good. January was not a very good month as far as the cards released of last year. The last spotlight was 7/16/24, and this is being sold on 12/17/24 in a bundle. Cool. So this is a better card now with King Eitri, but it's still a super niche card. Even so, its popularity is under 1% as people are still struggling to get Eitri. Maybe it shoots up, but no one is like I know all the best players in the game, and no one is telling me that Beta Ray Bill is anything right now. It's just a card. It's not a card you must have. The Beta Ray Bill deck for the moment is this Den hammer control, which basically says I can use my hammer power to make big Beta Ray Bill, and King Eitri gives me an extra way to do that. But you'll note Series 4, Series 4, Series 4, Series 5, Series 4, Series 5, Series 5. Not this, like giving me Beta Ray Bill and then saying you don't have access to a really powerful deck with him isn't useful, right? Like knocking down Beta Ray Bill, who's not very good, and then saying you also need to have 1, 2, 3, 4, counting Beta Ray Bill, Series 4 cards, and then 1, 2, 3 more Series 5 cards is not cheap. That's 6,000 tokens times 3, 18,000 tokens plus the plus all the others or the spotlight caches. That's not cheap. This is an expensive deck. All right, Supergiant was released 2/6/24. Again, we had a little run of nothing great coming. Supergiant came out with Black Swan. I believe they were the week after Black Swan. That wasn't when 2 cards came out the same week. Last spotlight was 10/29/24. Less than a month ago. and the play rate for this is under 1%. I hate that they just basically sold this to us through spotlights. People who didn't have it would go out of their way to get it, even though not that many people did with this extremely low play rate. And then now they're series dropping it. It makes me feel like that information being released so soon after is really cheap, especially because this is not an especially great card, but it is a card a lot of people didn't have. So Ratko was second in the Snap Judgments League with this list. It's not easy to play, but it's pretty good if you decide you want to give it a try. Supergiant is an absolute requirement for it, so at least this card has one good list, even if it's a hard to play, very good list. All right, Sasquatch was released 5/8/24. Much like Phastos, we thought Sasquatch was going to be incredible. Sasquatch is a Series 4 card, will be in spotlights in a few weeks, and 12/10/24. It's got a play rate under 1%. It's a fine drop, and this one does not have anything to do with Penny Parker. That's actually something else that we'll get to momentarily. That should be Valentina, not Penny Parker. But yeah, oh, right. No, she's in spotlights with Penny Parker is Sasquatch. So Sasquatch comes out with Penny Parker. Penny Parker now comes out with Gladiator and Sasquatch, two Series 4 cards, which means that Penny Parker's probably great. When you see two Series 4 cards, odds are they think that card is extremely strong and desirable, and they're using it as a way to sort of make you get these extra cards. So if you waste tokens, you get Series 4 cards, not Series 5 cards, because they're so generous. Here's a Thanos deck that runs Sasquatch. Is Sasquatch good or necessary in any of these lists? Nope. Sometimes he's a 3/10. When he's a 3/10, he's really good, but that's usually at the end of the game. I don't know. He's decent with Surtur. He's a fine card. Excuse me. She's a fine card. She's decent, but like she's not required. Everyone thought she was going to be busted. Everyone thought Phastos, or many people thought Phastos was going to be busted. Neither one of them ended up being anything. Neither one has been changed in any way. These are just cards that you're fine owning. They're not important. All right, then Valentina. So Valentina was released 4/30/24, and Valentina was in spotlights like a freaking week ago or 2 weeks ago. That's some shit. Like that is a terrible decision. I absolutely hate that. Valentina at least has a play rate, so if you missed her, getting her now is still decent. She's 3.5. She is both good and worth playing, but cards like Penny Parker might just chase her out of the meta. There's only room for so many good 2-drops, and if Penny Parker's enough better, then Valentina loses a ton of value, and we have a problem, right? It's also possible that Gore, the God Butcher, puts Mobius into the meta because I expect a lot of Ravonna and negative for Gore. And if that's the case, then all of a sudden Mobius comes back and Valentina is significantly worse. I don't know. This is a really good card. It's a card I wish more people had, but like it's a card that they could have just dropped straight to Series 3, to be perfectly honest. Like I'm still unconvinced how much better this is than Cable. All right, this is Ava's list that he's been dominating with. I've got a 70% win rate, 71% win rate with this in Deadpool's Diner. It was 75%, and then I decided I want to get off, so I just started snapping into people so I could get off and make the video and like organize tomorrow's video and stuff. So this list is very, very strong and has been what I've been playing Deadpool's Diner. And yes, you do really want Valentina for it, but again, Silver Sable and Hydra Bob are Series 5. U.S. Agent is Series 5. Cassandra Nova is Series 5. Frege is Series 5. Wiccan Series 5. Ajax is Series 5. And then Man-Thing and Valentina are Series 4. So that's 9 out of 12. This isn't accessible. The game needs to be accessible to players, especially newer players, for them to be able to play the game. I don't know why Second Dinner is having trouble with this. I feel like they know this from conversations I've had with them, but they need to act on that. Knowing it isn't enough. That still says Valentina, but I promise you it's Iron Lad. Iron Lad was released well over a year ago, 5/17/23. Last spotlight was 8/20/24, which is closer than I like, but not terrible. Play rate of 4%. This is still a reasonably played card, but if you are updated, this is usually just replaced by Anti-Venom. Much like Valentina, I think will be replaced by Penny Parker. This being replaced by Anti-Venom means I think that they're just giving us a card that has a newer, better thing. There is this one deck from Space that a lot of people have been messaging me they're having success with. That runs both Iron Lad and Anti-Venom, basically saying, I want the consistency of seeing both of these, especially with Wiccan in the list. Being able to make sure that you see these powerful 4-drops is extremely important. Iron Lad gives you a redundancy that other cards don't. Still, once more, Sage is Series 5, Speed is Series 5, Malekith is Series 5, Anti-Venom, and Wiccan. That's only 5 Series 5 cards, plus Iron Lad at Series 4. This is ridiculous. Like, 5 Series 5 cards is not something you can expect anyone to get quickly, right? That's at best $250 right off the bat and waiting for them to show up. This is not an acceptable model. Again, something needs to be done. Something real needs to be done. Finally, we're at X23. X23 was released 8/22/23. Again, well over a year old. This is coming out in like a week, 2 weeks in spotlights for 12/3/24. You can just go get this card. It's got a play rate of 5.6%, which is the most played of these cards by a lot because Destroy still gets played a lot. This does make Destroy a better budget option, but it's so old and important that most people have it, so they're dropping a card that's very likely anyone who's not brand new already has. Again, if you are brand new though, Destroy is now like the only thing to frickin' play, which is absurd because they released a whole bunch of shit into Discard, which was another cheap option to make that unplayable. So it's like Destroy and Scream are all you can do. There's also a promo tag on this for 1/7/25, so maybe they're giving this to us for free in some other way next month. So keep that in mind as well. We don't know what the promo tag means in this case. Uh, Look, you don't actually have to run Frigga, right? You can run kind of anything. You can run Agony if you've got Agony. You need X23 and Null for Destroy. You don't need Frigga or Nico. You can make a Destroy list that is 2 Series 4 cards and all Series 3, which is a pretty damn good deal. If you want Nico, great. If you want to add Frigga, great. But they're not required cards, and then you're totally fine. So, like, you should be just basically set with Destroy if you decide you would like to play that deck. Um, it's really strong and it got cheaper. This isn't a terrible idea for newer players. It's just such a nothing burger for the high majority of players. Because again, most players in Marvel Snap tend not to be newer because of the high cost of entry. And that high cost of entry is the problem. Telling us you're going to fix it, telling us you're going to fix it, telling us you're going to fix it, but with no idea how is garbage. I feel like there's a reason for this. I'm not trying to shill for this company. Hopefully the tone of this video has told you that, but I think that there is a reason for this. I hate that they cannot or will not tell us. If it is corporate overlord greed, that's fine. That's absolutely a possibility. But I cannot fathom why we're doing this still at this point. I understand that if they do this wrong, the game dies, right? Like if they redo the monetization of Marvel Snap and they do it wrong, Marvel Snap will no longer exist. But at this rate, I'm starting to worry about that. I don't think the game is dying. I don't think card acquisition is terrible. I think the card acquisition system is terrible. I think it's feel bad. It needs to be highly optimized. It's obnoxious. It takes forever. But I think it gives you for a reasonable amount, because if you spend $10 a month and are infinitely patient, you'll end up with the high majority of the cards. If you just buy the season pass and buy, honestly, I did a video on this on stream where I talked about this. It should be on my Twitch VODs. And in that conversation, a whole bunch of people were like, we followed your advice and we're within 5 cards of game complete just by buying the season pass and optimizing. That's great. But a system that you have to optimize with and absolutely feels terrible in the process is shit. It is a bad system, even if it gives you a lot of cards if you engage with it in a fully optimized metagamed way. It takes a lot of the fun out of the game, and this needs to be addressed. And yes, I know they're working on it, but holy shit, has it been a long wait. And then we need stopgaps, right? Like if we're bleeding players, and we are clearly bleeding players, both casual players, both newer players, and content creators are bleeding out of Marvel Snap. Something needs to stop the wound. This is not it. This is a mistake, and I really, really hope that Second Dinner addresses it. Again, I would love to be able to show them the comments to this video. Please try and be respectful and thoughtful, and I will be back later on today with your second Snap Take. See you tomorrow, or excuse me, see you later. Peace.